Hello guys and welcome to my channel. Now, in the wake of the Labour government planning benefit cuts for the disabled people in the UK, that has prompted some real conversations whether or not that's the optimal way for the government to raise funds. Now, people that typically disagree with this and typically disagree with the benefit cuts to the disabled people in the UK always point to other means and a more effective way of raising funds for the government. What they always point to is the wealth tax. Is wealth tax actually a better way for the government to raise funds? I'm not fully convinced because I don't truly believe in the wealth tax. But here in this video, I'm going to see if I could be convinced. And maybe there actually is a method to the madness. So if you enjoyed the video, drop a like. And if you want to see more videos like this, hit the subscribe button and it'll be much appreciated. Now, before we fully get into this, it's probably a good idea for me to explain why I'm quite skeptical about wealth tax. Number one, it's very difficult to be able to measure people's wealth in general and to keep up with like the ups and downs and how volatile it can be. That's number one. Number two, trying to tax people based on their wealth kind of seems unfair because if I was to invest in something but then the value was to go down, would I still have to pay the tax on it just because it's a lot of money? And also number two, just because something is very valuable doesn't mean it generates money. Because if I have to pay taxes on my wealth, it could be taxes on my income that I'm using to pay the tax on my wealth, because whatever I own doesn't generate that much money. And that's one of the reasons why taxes on farms in general typically seen as unfair, because farm can be huge and can have a lot of like wealth in it, but the income it generates isn't sustainable enough to be able to pay tax and get good enough profit from it. But we'll see in this video. Let's go.
Work, and why don't Labour seem all that interested in implementing it? Never miss an episode and always feel in the loop by subscribing and ringing the bell. Now, when it comes to the defence uplift, it's fair to say that it's by no means cheap. The IFS predicted that bringing defence spending up to 2.5% from the current 2.3% would cost the UK an additional £6 billion annually. That might not sound like much in the context of a £1.2 trillion budget, but defence spending has already risen by about £11 billion since 2022, and taking it up to 3%, which is where Starmer says he wants it to be by the next Parliament, will cost many more billions. Anyway, Starmer's decision to fund this via cuts to the international aid budget is likely simply to avoid political arguments about where else the money could come from. It's unlikely the Tories or Reform would complain about this, and they haven't. And whatever your thoughts on the morality of cutting foreign aid, it's true to say that the decision for the £6 billion to come entirely from this department keeps it somewhat clean for Starmer, who's presiding over a truly perilous economic situation at home, and has already taken serious flack for his decision to tax farmers and to means test the winter fuel payment. Nonetheless, cutting foreign aid will be both terrible news for poorer recipient countries and do yet further reputational damage to the UK's international reputation and soft power, which is why some people have started looking for other sources of funding. As we previously mentioned, our audience and a number of organisations have pushed the Labour government to, instead, fund defence via a wealth tax, something the government has not yet commented on. On the surface, this seems odd. After all, Labour is a left-wing party, and taxing the richest in society in order to resolve economic problems seems like an obvious position to take. To understand why they haven't, we need to understand what a wealth tax is and how it could work. Essentially, a wealth tax does what it says on the tin. Taxes wealth held by an individual. Wealth taxes add up the value of all assets held by an individual. This might be your property, any stocks you own, and savings like your pension, and then ask the individual to pay X% on any value over a certain threshold. It's rare, for instance, that wealth tax proposals for the UK set thresholds below around £500,000. If your assets weren't liquid at the time, the government would likely allow you to make your own decisions about exactly which ones you'd want to liquidate in order to pay the tax, and give you some time to do this.
And this is one of the problems, right? When you invest in something, for you to pay taxes on it, it has to generate money. But if you have assets that doesn't generate money easily, what happens then? What do? Do you like sell it? It makes that they're like, it just makes buying stuff, it makes it too volatile. Because, oh, I need to pay my tax on that. Or so I need to sell this as quick as possible. Oh, I'm going to sell it for half of what I bought. But guess what? The person that's trying to buy it, he's going to capitalize on the fact that now you have to pay tax on that. So now you need to make money. So or the leverage, because I'm the only one that's going to buy it from you. So now you have to sell it lower than what you bought before. But guess what? If you are in that situation, I can definitely be in that situation as well. So what then happens then? Like, who is it that's going to invest in new houses? Who is it that's going to invest in the market? Who is it like? It would just disincentivize totally investment. Like, it just will. Like, people will just try and find loopholes to make sure they don't have to pay it. That's the problem. But if you were to ask me, like, what is the solution? Just increase the marginal tax rate. Like, the highest marginal tax rate. Just increase it. I think that's such an easy way to be able to do it. Like, I don't think, like, wealth tax is necessarily the way to go about it.
Importantly, though, your wealth being tied up wouldn't be an acceptable excuse for not paying. Wealth taxes are generally pretty popular because, in theory, they don't discourage work like income tax does, and they take money from those with the most to give, namely people sitting on massive piles of money. They're especially popular in the UK because wealth inequality is so stark. For context, the top 20% in the UK own 63% of all wealth.
Yes, I would say this right. The inequality in wealth is not a good thing, okay? It's not a good thing. But I think there are other means to be able to get, like, everyone, like, on a more even playing field. Like, there's so much, like, so many other ways to be able to get this done than, like, if someone invest, like, there's just so much better ways.
While the bottom 20% account for just 0.5%. Things have got far worse in the past 8 years or so. This means the UK's wealth distribution is far more unequal than its income distribution, which is what commentators usually focus on. For comparison, the top 20% of earners account for 36% of all income, and the bottom 20% account for 8%.
See, that's not good. That's just
anyway,
not good
when
at
polled
all.
on the idea, the British public usually respond positively to it. Back in 2023, 53% of respondents said that they would back a 1% tax on wealth over £500,000. When higher thresholds were posed, support only rose further. So why doesn't the government just do this? Well, unfortunately, recurring wealth taxes just don't have a great record. According to the OECD, wealth taxes are usually far harder to administer and bring in far less money than expected.
Yes, of course. Like I said, number one, it's very difficult to be able to get this done. You need to calculate how much wealth they have, or when they sell something, okay, their wealth is not up to date anymore. People will just try and, like, be below the threshold at which, like, you're wealth taxing people. That's what they were trying to do. And guess what? If you're taxing someone, at some point, it acts as a way for you not to be able to get involved in certain actions, right? When you tax, like, or let's just say when you tax drugs, or when you tax, like, cigarettes, or when you tax alcohol, when you increase the taxes on them, on these kind of things, people will buy them less. When you increase the income tax, people will work less, right? So it's the same thing, right? If you're to, like, tax wealth, people will just invest less, and then the money that you probably predict to be able to bring in is going to be way less, because people just won't act the same. Taxes change the behaviors of people. It does. And it just won't bring in enough money that you probably expected in the first place.
Which is why they've become less popular over the past few decades. In 1990, for instance, 12 OECD countries had some sort of tax on net wealth. That number had fallen to just 3 in 2017. There were a number of reasons wealth taxes don't work as well as you might assume. For starters, measuring wealth is far more difficult than measuring income, and the super rich often find ways to hide or undervalue their assets. Second, to make any wealth tax politically palatable, you have to have...
Did you know you can earn £1 million per person tax-free per year using a government...
exemptions, and these are usually ruthlessly exploited. In the UK, for instance, you'd presumably have to include some sort of exemption for cash-poor pensioners living in big, expensive houses. But you can imagine how much more difficult this would make the Treasury's job. However, while recurring annual wealth taxes don't have a great track record, in 2020, a report from the Wealth Tax Commission found a one-off surprise wealth tax might sort of work. There are a number of advantages to a one-off tax. If it's done without warning, rich people won't have any time to hide.
That's a good point. If you can just do it one time, and the people wouldn't have time, number one, to be able to change the way they behave. Number two, they wouldn't see it coming. So whatever loopholes they're gonna get through, they wouldn't be able to do because just no time, and they don't see it coming. That could probably, if this can work, sure, why not? Like one time, one-off wealth tax. Okay, go on. Like that's no problem at all. But the repercussions that comes after that, who's to say there wouldn't be like massive repercussions for that?
Their assets or take steps to avoid it. It could be done without exemptions, so that it couldn't be exploited, but payments could still be deferred to avoid bankrupting asset-rich but cash-poor people. If it's credibly one-off, it also wouldn't affect future behaviour, unlike an annual tax, which would encourage people to either spend more or move their money offshore. Anyway, according to the report, a one-off wealth tax payable on all individual wealth above £500,000 and charged at around 5% would raise around £250 billion, while a similar tax for only those with more than £2 million in assets would raise just over £80 billion. Now, obviously there are some downsides. Some people see wealth taxes as a form of double taxation, given that wealth is usually accumulated by saving income. Although the UK already has taxes for specific forms of wealth, like capital gains tax, which we don't generally object to. Some people also think one-off taxes are unpalatably unpredictable, although again the UK has imposed one-off taxes before, and they've worked out alright. So it seems that, despite some downsides, a one-off wealth tax very much could work in the UK.
If one-off wealth tax works, then sure, go for it. Like, why not?
It would bring in more than enough to cover the defence spending uplift. Whether Starmer actually wants to fight this political battle, though, is another question entirely. Like a lot of things, this whole
and this is just kind of my takeaway, right? A one-off tax probably could work, right? No one can see it coming. But the problem is if it's reoccurring, right? I think most people that say wealth tax, they probably want it to be reoccurring, right? And if it is reoccurring, people will just change the way they behave, right? If I invest in an asset, but then, wait, who even decides what the value of the asset is? If the treasury was to decide what the value of the asset is, but then I buy it for way less, does that mean the value of the asset is not what I bought it, or is it this initial value that you placed on it before I bought it? Who decides the value of an asset now? Is it what I bought it or what you say it is? So that's it's so difficult. If you believe in wealth tax, just state how you would actually believe it would actually run. That's the problem. But I'm still open to being convinced. The one-off one seems to be like a good idea. If it works, sure, why not? Let's go for it. But if you believe if you believe in wealth tax, put it down below in the comments and I'll happily read it. But anyways, that's the end of the video. Thank you very much. And if you like the video, you can drop a like. And if you want to see more of this kind of video, you can subscribe. Thank you very much for watching.